Welcome to Running for Real, a global community with a shared love and curiosity for running. Together we reconnect with the reasons why we love to run and discover ways it helps us become better people. Whether it's the quiet moments of a morning run while the rest of the world still sleeps, or befriending the strangers next to you at the start line of a race. We are here to connect with others who see running as the common thread that weaves our lives together. Come join me, Tina Muir, as I talk with people from all walks of life, united by a love of running. Hello, my friends. Welcome to episode 341 of the Running for Real podcast. I am excited that you are here today. I hope you enjoyed last week's episode where I did a bit of a news scoop. I don't normally get to be the one to break news or to be the first person to get to the news, but it was kind of cool to do that, having Dave Spandorfer and Sally Bergerson on to talk about the Janji and Oiselle partnership of equals. So go back and check that one out if you have not already listened to it. And today I am loving having on a guest who I got to meet in person a few months ago when our mutual friend Sid Baptista connected us. And I'm excited to welcome Liz Rock to the podcast. Now, Liz is the co-founder of the Bra Run, and she is also the co-founder of the pioneering women's running crew, TrailblazHers. And we're going to talk about those things today. We're also going to talk, she kind of went a bit viral, had a media storm around her as being someone who went from 350 pounds to running 4 marathons. And we talk a bit about her relationship to food, her relationship to weight and her body over the time. But I also wanted to go deeper than that and talk about just the ups and downs that we go through in life. Quite often it seems like the weight loss is the end of the story for people, and it's obviously not. So we wanted to talk about that and talk about some of the other things in her life that have been ups and downs. I know you like the vulnerable and real and raw episodes as much as I do, where people really have an honest conversation about how things aren't as simple as they seem. And this is definitely another one of those episodes. So let's get to this episode with Liz Rock. Thank you to Tracksmith for sponsoring this episode of the Running for Real podcast. I am excited that we are getting into short season, which means my session speed shorts can come back out of my drawer and be back onto my legs for the rest of the summer. I'm still wearing the same pairs I was given in 2019. They're in just as good condition. They will be worn week in, week out, and I love them. And with the speed session shorts right now, there are some cool new colors for you to go check out. I don't need those new colors because, as I said, my current pair are working just fine. Now, Tracksmith is an independent running brand inspired by a deep love of the sport. As the weather has warmed and training is underway, these speed session shorts I just mentioned there are my favorite go-to for my long runs, for my regular runs, for everything in between, and they have a new spring collection. They feature an exposed elastic waistband and a lightweight liner, so they feel as light as air and they're barely there, and I can really attest to that. For first-time purchasers, you can use code TINANEW, that's N-E-W, TINANEW, for $15 off your order of $75 or more. For returning customers, you can use the code TINAGIVE, TINA G-I-V-E, for free shipping and a donation to support Track Girls, which is a non-profit working to help young girls in the sport of track and field. So go check that out. Thank you so much to Tracksmith for their support, and I can't wait to hear what you think of your speed session shorts. Liz, I am so excited to welcome you to the Running for Real podcast, and I'm excited you are here. Thanks for joining me.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm also excited.
I have to begin by embarrassing you a little with what we were just talking about. That Liz and we met a few months ago at the running event, thanks to Sid Baptista. And it was like late at night, I think. Wasn't it like 11 p.m. or something?
I think we were there late. Yeah, we were there late.
And we were sitting at a table. And so you and I had then, I'd followed you at an earlier point because Sid had told me, you were someone I should be interested in and follow along with. But we hadn't, connected much, but I had said about you coming on this podcast. And I said to you last week that I really needed to go take some time to myself. I was feeling really burned out and stressed and just down, like really unhappy. And I just felt like I needed to get away. And you were so encouraging and like, good for you. You take care of you. And it was just, I know I don't need your approval for anything, but I felt, especially us not knowing each other that well yet, I just felt that the genuine and authentic way you said that just meant so much to me. And I've told you that before we started recording, but I just want to thank you for that, because, you know, when we don't know someone that well, it's easy to be like, okay, fine, we'll talk another time. But you really like actually took the extra words to say like, good for you, well done. And so thanks for that. I needed it.
No, of course. Like, I was literally, because like, I feel like we're like in weird times a little bit. And like, especially like for women, I think like women are like superhumans, you know what I mean? So like, I'm always like looking out, like whether I know you or not, like if you need to talk, if you need words of encouragement, like I feel like I am that person to like, listen, we all go through shit sometimes, or we all need a break. We're all burnt out doing 100 million things at once. Like, dude, if you need some time, take it. Take it.
Mm-hmm. Do you find it hard to take time because you have that attitude?
I do find it hard to take time. I probably should take my own advice, honestly.
That's usually how it works.
But I don't know. I feel like because like a lot of like my like family members, like women in my family, or like some of my friends, like I feel like they're doing way more than I am. So like sometimes I feel like I'm like not obligated to complain or something. Like they have kids, they have husbands, you know, they have full-time jobs, and I'm like, Liz, you are single, no kids, not even a plant. Like,
but is that not part of the problem? Is that we're all looking at each other thinking, oh, they're doing more, and you know, like you said, you know, we're split because we recognize how fortunate we are in the world today.
Right.
But it's also okay to say like, all right, I may not have kids, an elderly parent, a 60-hour-a-week job, and a training plan and I'm training for an Ironman. You may not have all these things, but it doesn't make it any less valid when we do feel that way. But do you think that's part of the problem with women? Is that?
Yeah, because I just feel like, I don't know if it's like a society thing or like even like just like, I can only speak for myself and like how I grew up and like the women in my life. I'm Haitian American, and like just like I just grew up with like a lot of resilient women around me. And I just remember just like the hustle to like feed the kids, feed the cousins, and the hustle to like work and like, you know, have a roof over our heads, the hustle to like clean the house, like serve your husband. Like it's just like culturally, I feel like I've just been always around that. So it's kind of hard to break.
Yeah, but self-care is something that's important to you. So what do you tell yourself when you are feeling that way?
Man, I just try to give myself as much grace as possible. Like I try to refrain my thoughts as much as possible, which is hard sometimes. But I really try to like give myself space to complain or like give myself space to like, you know, do the thing. And then I'm like, okay, Liz, like chill out. You know, you need to maybe go another direction or look at this a different way. And then I just try to give myself as much grace as humanly possible.
Yes, that's good advice, and something I think most of us could do a better job with. I want to ask you, just as we get into this conversation, there's a lot of things I want to ask you about, but I like to begin with some kind of realization or epiphany or defining moment in your life that has ultimately led to us having this conversation right now, or just been a changing point in your life. Would you like to share one with us?
I feel like that's such a profound question. You know what? I know, like, before this, we kind of talked, and you said that you, like, you know, because I've spoken about my grandmother a lot, you know, because, like, I feel like it took her, like, passing away for me to, like, kind of wake up and, like, start taking, like, my fitness journey seriously. But I also go further and say, like, I think entering the running community has been like a big epiphany for me. Like that, you know, really deciding to like do my first, and I'll say my first, it was my sprint triathlon, where, you know, you have to run, you have to swim, you have to cycle. And I just remember, like, out of all of those three things, I'm like, I can't run. I don't know how to run. Like, I can't do it. So, like, I did a couch to 5K, and, like, ever since that moment, like, me fully deciding to give it my all in this, like, sprint triathlon and, like, getting into running, I feel like my life has forever changed.
Was there a moment in that training specifically, like a run you were on, and you remember thinking like, oh, I get this, or, oh, I can't believe I did this? Like, was there a moment specifically that you remember feeling that way?
I think it was, that's a good question. I think, so for me, with like, I did the couch to 5K, which is like, you know, at the end of like the program, you're supposed to be able to run 30 minutes. It's the 30 minutes you're supposed to run at the end of this program. You're supposed to run a 5K in 30 minutes, right? So at the end of the program, I was not able to run this 5K. Like, I was able to go for 30 minutes, but I just wasn't fast enough to run 3 miles in 30 minutes. So I just remember at the end of that program, I just remembered, like, I need to keep on going. Like, it was just kind of like this hunger inside of me that was like, well, it's okay. Like, okay, I can't get to 3 miles in 30 minutes, but I could still go far. Like, I went from not running at all to running 30 minutes. And now doing a sprint triathlon, like, I wonder, like, what else my body could do. So I think it was really, like, the end of that program, seeing that I couldn't do the 30 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, that I couldn't do the 3 miles in 30 minutes. And I'm like, oh, bet. Cool. Let's keep on going.
I love that. I love hearing that. And it is astounding for someone who has never been a runner before, or maybe has some kind of background with doing it as a child. Either way, and my mum did couch to 5K for the first time of running ever in 2020, and it was unbelievable seeing. I mean, you would have witnessed this for yourself, but like seeing that difference in, like doing 2 minutes or 1 minute of running, and then you got 30 minutes continuous. By like, it's pretty incredible to watch the human body go through that. And yet, like you said, even if it's not the 3 miles or the 5K in the 30 minutes, which is still a pretty fast pace, the fact that you can do 30 minutes is pretty amazing. So, I love hearing that was that moment for you. And I want to take this moment then to talk about something that I read about you that you spoke about, which I think is something I have never heard anyone talk about, but is such an important point. And that is so you worked your way up from there, getting further and longer in the distances. You've done marathons at this point, but you talked about completing your first marathon and how this was in the Pioneers article, I think. You talked about seeing people completing a marathon, and we tend to think of it as like, all right, job done. You're a runner. Congratulations. Welcome to the club. Continue on, please. We don't need to like talk about you, but you talked about how that's not the case. Necessarily, it's not like it's a checked box and then you're just forever in that stage. It's like an ongoing growth and learning and forwards and backwards. So yeah, if you'd like to elaborate on that.
I think for me, like you just had mentioned it about like how like your body could take you so far, but for me too, like when it comes to running, it's really mental. Like how like, yes, your body has taken you this far, and like thank you, body, but like, wow, my mind really just did that. Like I mentally was able to like push myself to complete however mileage it is, whether it's 3 miles, whether it's 26.2 miles. And I feel like there's so much synergy between like training and running and just like life in general, where it's like you just kind of want to keep on like pushing your mind. And I feel like that's what it is for me when it comes to like running or like endurance sports. It's just like, I like to say that I like to like fuck with myself a little bit with like my mindset, because it's like one side of my mind is like, what am I doing? What are you doing? Like, are you stupid? Stop. And like the other side is like, you got this, like keep on going. Like it's only like another mile. So it's kind of like you're battling yourself internally. Yeah. And then it's kind of like, I wonder who's going to win at the end of the day. Like which side of my brain is going to win. And of course you want the side of your brain that is like, cheering yourself on and like wanting more and wanting you to accomplish whatever goal it is. Like you want that side to win. And I just feel like, like even if you cross the finish line, or whether you like reach a goal in your like personal life that has nothing to do with running, it's always like, what's next? Like how can I push myself further to like achieve another goal?
Have you ever got to a point with running where it doesn't need to be goals, or is that still what drives you?
I'm like in a weird space of running right now.
That's okay. So am I.
I'm in a weird space with long distance right now. Where I think right now in this like stage in my life, I'm trying to figure out, because like, for so long I operated in that space of like more, what's next, what's next. Like I operated in a space of like, I want to get the world majors. I need to run like how many marathons a year to get the world majors or whatever. But I'm burnt out. Number one, I burnt myself out, and talking about like weight loss journey and gaining weight, losing weight, gaining weight, and trying to figure that out, like being diagnosed with binge eating disorder and all that stuff. Like one thing with the world majors. Let's just talk about that real quick. Like running the marathons. I've been having to run Berlin forever. So like
That's the only one you've got left?
Berlin and Tokyo.
Okay.
But I got into Berlin in 2020, of course. That was a shit show. And no one got to run that. But I kept on deferring. They kept on giving me the opportunity to defer. This year I was supposed to run it. I deferred again for 2022. I ended up going to Berlin, but not running it. And then that was painful. That was painful. That was actually it hurt my ego a little bit. And then they gave me the opportunity again to defer for 2023 for this year. And I really had to think to myself, do I want to defer? Like, do I want to do this again? Because I feel like I'm like starting from scratch with running. I feel like, like I'm just trying to get like as 3 little miles in, like that's like my goal right now, like 3 miles for like 3 times a week. Like that is my goal.
Yeah.
But one thing with endurance sports where I feel like a lot of people don't talk about is like when it comes to endurance sports, it triggers a lot of my my binge eating. Whether it's cycling, whether it's running, like I found over and over again, I like as soon as those mileages go up, I relapse 100%. And now I'm like another mind fuck. Now I'm having to worry about like, crap, how do I get myself out of like this like mindset of binging all the time? Because like you have to, up your calories because of course you're running all these miles, but then I like take it overboard and then it's just like a slippery slope for me. So this year I was like, no, I'm not going to put myself through that right now. So I didn't defer. I just let it, lapse. It is what it is. I will figure it out. I will run it when I need to really run it. I'm just right now figuring how. Right now I'm just focusing on getting back to being strong, physically and like mentally when it comes to, especially when it comes to like my eating.
Thank you to Orlo for sponsoring this episode of the Running for Real podcast and for taking care of me. As a vegetarian, I will admit that my diet has been far from perfect when it comes to getting enough protein in, when it comes to taking care of my heart health and my brain health. As much as I thought it would be easy, it maybe hasn't been. And omega-3s make it easy for me to take care of those areas, and they are also critical for runners. They allow us to create energy, which we need omega-3s to create energy, ATP energy. They give us mental clarity and focus, which of course we need to handle those doubtful inner critic thoughts that come through during our runs. And they help us for those short and long distance runs so we can stay in the mental game. Now, omega-3s are critical for heart health, but as I mentioned, the other thing I love about Orlo is that they are the world's first carbon negative omega supplement, and they are putting back fish into the ocean just through using algae instead of using fish oils. So by working with algae, which is inherently sustainable, they are able to take care of making sure that there are more fish left in our oceans to keep climate change from becoming more of an issue. So they are made of pure, potent polar omegas. This unique polar lipid structure provides superior absorption and is 3 times the better absorbed than fish oils and other algae supplements on the market. And so you don't get any of those yucky fish burps. Omega-3s are critical for runners. They are critical for us as humans, and especially if you are someone who maybe doesn't get enough omegas in through your food, especially if you're a vegetarian, this is an ideal thing for you to consider. Now, as a friend of mine, you can get a 12% discount. I will put a link in the show notes so you can go get it, but you can also go to orlonutrition.com/discount/Tina. That's ORLO nutrition.com/discount/Tina, but it's probably easier to just go to the show notes. Go check it out. And that's kind of what I was getting at in that I said I'm also in a weird place. Like I was always driven by goals for so many years, and now I'm trying to figure out what the next step is because they're not working for me anymore.
Right.
And so it is a strange place to be when you, always have like the carrot dangling, and then when you remove the carrot. And so did I get that correctly that you said that? So you did defer again, like you're allowed to defer again, or was that kind of you letting go of Berlin and saying someday I'll do it if it was meant to be?
Yeah, so me letting it go because I was able to defer it again for this year, but I just said, just let it go.
Mm-hmm. I think that's smart. That's wise. but that's a hard decision to make, and that's a hard thing to accept because, especially with the option of deferring. I mean, a year seems like just enough time. I can get that, I can get things back on track by then.
Right.
But it's kind of become for you one of those moments where, when people, they're trying to break, 4 in the marathon or 5 in the marathon, and they keep doing it again and again, and they run like 15 minutes over and 10 minutes over and 5 minutes over, and they never get it, and they just keep going, and you're like, just maybe like step away and do a 5K for a while, like
pause, reevaluate, and then come
you're driving yourself crazy here. And if you don't mind going into that a little bit, that was some of the things I was, having been someone who struggled with eating for most of my professional career. How much of these ups and downs, the binge eating disorder, you did mention earlier that a lot of it is like mental and internal. For me, that was definitely the case of just like not feeling like I was good enough. But how much of that have you, in your experience, has it been about you having to work through kind of peace in yourself and figuring out who you are? Which is what causes a lot of the struggles with weight, or is it not that? Is it the opposite, that like this is just something for some reason that I have this association with running or doing more exercise and just struggling with controlling this binge eating disorder?
Yeah, I think
if you're comfortable sharing that.
No, it's fun. I feel like I'm in a way better space to talk about it because I've put so much shame around. Like, to me, like, binging is like my dirty little secret a little bit. And I've put so much shame around just that part of my life where it's like, you know, if you're not my therapist or my doctor, like, you really don't know.
And that's where shame thrives, isn't when it's in the dark. So yeah.
Right. So I think it's something that I've definitely struggled with for a very, very, very long time. And I seen it just got worse when the miles got higher. And that's all I guess I could say about that right now is that, and maybe it's definitely a control thing for me too. Like, it's hard for me to find that control when it comes to eating 100%. And that's something that I'm still trying to figure out, is how to manage it, how to control it. Like, again, like, I'm seeing my therapist, you know, I have a nutritionist, I'm seeing my doctor about it, you know what I mean? Like, but yeah, it's really hard to manage. It's hard to maneuver. Like, it's something that is constantly I'm thinking about. Honestly, like, it takes way too much mental space in my brain. Yeah, it's like right now I'm like, I've been binge free for like 2 months, but like I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like, I'm just like, and that's like such a horrible space to be in because like the anxiety that I have is ridiculous when it comes to that. So I feel like I am, and I feel like that also is kind of holding me back right now with like my like fitness a little bit, where it's I'm like doing just enough a little bit to just, I don't know.
Do you have a different relationship with movement doing that though? That like we said earlier, doing exercise for movement rather than doing it as a way to achieve or challenge or push yourself. I
have found now, like, I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you, like the last like 2 months, I found that like now it's like, as long as I'm moving my body, right? If I go on this 3 miles, if I'm walking the whole time, as long as I'm moving my body, like if I take a CrossFit class and I can't do a certain move, like you do another move, like you just move your body and be okay with just doing that. Like, be proud of yourself for just like getting out the door and just moving, you know? Because I feel like with that too, it's kind of like I'm giving myself grace. I'm like slowly trying to build and not trying to like overdo it all at once like I typically do. So I'm just trying to find like enjoyment and like grace in that process of just like getting back to things and not like, I have to go run 10 miles tomorrow because what am I trying to prove? Nothing, you know? So.
Yeah. But I think this is a really important point to bring up. I've had so many friends, especially since COVID, who have really felt a similar way in terms of just, you know, having a past of being able to accomplish, you know, running marathons and doing all these things. And for one reason or another, their bodies are breaking down or they're unable to do it. And at first you try and force it and you're like, okay, well, I used to be able to do 26, so I'm going to at least do 10 because, you know, whatever. And then they try and force, and it's just not working. The body is like, nope. And then eventually kind of hearing them come full circle and be like, you know, like you said, I just want to move my body a few times a week, whatever that ends up being, that is okay. But I'm hearing that a lot right now. And I think it is important to talk about this because we're still learning what the like side effects were of that time we went through, and how it's affecting us in different ways, mentally and physically. So yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Of course. Thank you for giving me the space to.
Yeah. Is there anything else on that topic you want to talk about before we kind of move on to some other things?
No.
Okay. One last thing I want to ask you about that is kind of side related, kind of not on your bio on the TrailblazHers website, which we'll talk about in a minute. Your quote on there was, movement is power, not about being perfect. It's about pushing yourself beyond your comfort zone. Does that still apply to you, or would you like to modify it slightly after this interview?
Yes, I think I actually do need to update that. I think I know, like when I say like, movement is powerful and like, moving like past your comfort zone or whatever, like to me, you could take that a lot of ways, and maybe I do need to rephrase that, but like, it's like, for me, out of my comfort zone right now is leaving my house and going for a walk. You know what I mean? Me like going out of my comfort zone is like going to the CrossFit class that I'm like thinking I'm gonna get yelled at, but honestly, like they're all nice. You know what I mean? Like that's what I mean by like pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. Like it doesn't have to be like this grand thing. It could just literally just be like putting on your sneakers and getting your keys and going into your car. If that is all that you got today and that is past your comfort zone, then so be it.
So actually you don't need to modify it. You just are maybe looking at it in a different way. You're taking the words differently than maybe when you wrote them, which is, pretty cool in itself. And thank you for that. I was like looking at that as you were talking there, and I was like, it still kind of relates, but it also could not. So that does still speak to you, which is good. All right. So TrailblazHers, which I just mentioned there, and the Bra Run are two things you have co-founded, co-organized. So let's talk about the Bra Run first. Tell us about like how that came about and why that was so meaningful to you.
Yeah. So the Bra Run came about in 2018, and honestly, it was just me going off for a run. And being like insecure about like my body and like taking off my shirt. It was like in June, it was hot, and I was just like, take off your shirt, you're about to pass out, like go on. And I ran, I did my miles, but I ran home, never taking off my shirt. And that's honestly how the Bra Run came to life. I called one of my friends, Frances, who like I think I had seen her prior, like on Instagram running in her sports bra. And I'm like, I need to call her. Like, I wonder like if she'll do it with me or something. Like, asking for like words of encouragement or something. And then there you go, Bra Run is formed in 2028.
I love that, and this is something I've always found hard because it is something that feels like such a big deal to women to do that. And, while I've always encouraged people to do that, I recognize that for many women who would look at me, even when I, wasn't running, when I was, if you want to say at my heaviest, however you want to word that, like I still was on the smaller side of being a woman. And so, but it is something that so many women struggle with. And there are, a lot of movements to get women to do that and take the power back. And while it still feels intimidating, one thing I have noticed, at least in the summer, and I don't know if this is just like the youth of today with their confidence, but I feel more jarred now seeing a man with his shirt off than I do with a woman wearing like a sports bra with like high-waisted pants. And it almost feels to me like it's a way that women have been like, okay, I'm going to wear a sports bra, but I'm only going to leave a tiny little gap in between, but it's still me doing this thing.
Right.
And so, when I see a man with his shirt off now, I quite often am like, ooh, look at you with your like shirt off, Mr. Confident. But I do feel that the high-waisted pants have at least helped women to take that step because it's only leaving a tiny little gap in the middle. So any thoughts on that? That was just my observation.
No, I have never thought of that, but that actually is a very good point. Like the pants are getting higher. But I think for men, like circling back on that, I think for men, it's just not a thing. It's not taboo, right? It's like they could live their lives for the most part. Like, we don't even have to wear much. I mean, we could be fully dressed in a trash bag, and I feel like you go outside and you'll still like get harassed or catcalled or something. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So like, and then like having a sports bra, like, oh God, like, you know, it's like a thing right now.
Mm-hmm.
And then also too, I feel like not in running, like not all bodies are represented, and like,
Absolutely.
and then just us as women being in our heads about our bodies and not being confident about our bodies, and you know, making up these stories in our head about like we're not good enough, our bodies are not good enough, and like I think like it's like a contribution of like so many things, right? Like what society has to say, being catcalled and harassed, what like how, you know, not all bodies really are represented in like the running space, especially like in these brands, being in our own heads, you know what I mean? Like, and judging ourselves. I think it's like a bunch of things that contributes to that insecurity and that fear. But that's why like the bra run is so beautiful. It's such a beautiful space because it's like power in numbers. You know, we have like all sorts of body types, all backgrounds, like all ages. Like we've had like women in their like 60s who've like have done the bra run with us, and they're like, this is my first time running in my sports bra. And I'm like, wow. Like,
that's cool.
To me, that like, I'm like, wow.
Yeah, that is really cool. And probably for them especially, that's like the idea of doing that when they were younger would have been unimaginable. So that's really such an empowering moment to do that. So yeah, that's really, and I love that you've organized that and you know, yeah, change lives with that, because taking that power, using that empowerment can give, like we were talking about earlier, about doing one thing and then recognizing you can do it. That gives people the strength to say, okay, well, if I can do this, then maybe I can wear that tight dress I've always wanted to wear, or you know, yeah. So thank you for that. And then TrailblazHers, tell us about how that came about, and yeah, what that means to you now.
Yeah, so TrailblazHers was basically birthed out of the bra run. So the bra run is a yearly event we host in March in Boston, and then we've done it in New York one time. But after each event, we would always get women like coming to us, messaging us about like, what's next? Like, we love this. Like, is there activations like next month? Like, are you guys doing anything else throughout the year? And like at the time, like Francis is the captain of Pioneers. At that time, I was co-leading one of the run groups in Boston. I was doing a lot of things. So we're just like, this is a lot of work. Like, we'll see you next year.
Yeah.
We'll see you in July. And then in 2020, we finally decided to take the plunge and create TrailblazHers, which is an all-women's run crew here in Boston, and we like to say and beyond. You know, we like to take a holistic approach to like how we deal with our community, where it's like we don't only care about like the miles that you're running, but we care about you as a person, as a human being, as a woman. You know, like we care about your mental health, your spiritual health, your emotional health, and that's why we'll, you know, usually pair up our runs and walks with some sort of like feel-good activity or self-care activity. And like one of our like, you know, activations that we do a lot is called Self-Care Sunday. And that's basically what it is. Like, we'll do a run, we'll do a workshop afterwards on like some sort of like topic, you know, that like touches mental health. We'll do meditation, we'll do yoga, we'll do a dance class, like, again, any self-care or feel-good activity. So it's like you're spending a couple hours with us on a Sunday morning each month.
Thank you to Athletic Greens for sponsoring this episode of the Running for Real podcast. Now, I have been taking my AG1 for 3 or 4 years now, and AG1 by Athletic Greens is an essentialist nutrition company that has created a movement around simplifying our health routine. Now, it's not just for athletes, it's for life elites, for busy mums, dads, rookies, first-timers, and everyone in between. Now, it is all based around the fact that better nutrition is made a lot simpler. That means 75 vitamins, minerals, whole food sourced superfoods, probiotics, adaptogens are in one convenient daily serving. This special blend of ingredients helps your body's nutritional needs, supports gut health, immunity, energy, recovery, focus, and aging. What doesn't it do? Now, I mentioned that this is one scoop. So it's just one simple scoop in some water. I always begin my day with it, give it a shake, drink it down, and it is making sure that for the rest of the day, no matter what I eat, even if my diet is not perfect, I am making sure I'm getting those vitamins and minerals, the dairy-free probiotics, the adaptogens, the antioxidants, and the superfood complex, all just in my body. It's got the energy supporting ingredients like a natural form of B12, biotin, bioavailable folate, and magnesium. Yes, I did take it during my pregnancies and I felt it worked wonderfully, as I did in postpartum. It's also got gut health supporting ingredients, digestion supporting ingredients like spirulina, slippery elm, papaya, and burdock root. And they have worked incredibly hard on this with 53 iterations over the last decade. So this is a real passion for them. Now, you as a friend of mine can get a 1-year free supply of vitamin D3 and K2, which I take with my Athletic Greens, by going to athleticgreens.com/Tina. You will also get 5 free travel packs just for being a friend of mine. So go to athleticgreens.com/Tina. Yes, and I think that's so important. And what has that meant to you as you have seen it grow and seen what it means to other people to like recognize the role you're playing in changing our culture, changing the industry?
To me, I feel like it's such a good question because I've thought about this a lot. I thought about like I feel like I'm very lucky, maybe blessed. I don't know. Like I just feel like I didn't go looking for this. You know what I mean? Like I just feel like again with running, like when that question that you asked me in the beginning, like running has been such a like huge like pillar in my life that it's like legit changed who I am, legit like has like I feel like my like leadership skills are like strengthened now because of running. Like my like I hate public speaking, I hate doing stuff like this by the way, but like it's like again like push me outside of my comfort zone to do like some amazing things, like be on panels, do podcasts. Like I've changed my career because of running. Like I get to like help women and like have this amazing group and like you know like create this like safe, like helping create the safe space in the running community here. Like it's just been so surreal to me, honestly. Like
yeah,
I'm just like I take it really seriously as well. Like,
I bet.
I don't f around.
I can see that. Have you, I mean, I'm sure you've had a ton of people saying like how that has, you know, changed their lives or the impact that you've had. Are you able to take it in those moments, or do you tend to deflect and be like, no, you know, are you able to soak in those compliments?
I've been trying to be better at it because I hate compliments. I'm just like, yeah. But no, like when women like, oh my god, we've gotten so many like the recent one that we got recently was this girl who runs with us. She has been running with us for a couple of years. She was like, you know, because of Trailblazers and like your leadership, like I've been able to like have confidence to go back to school. Like, you know, like to me, I'm like, this like has nothing to do with running. Yeah, you know what I mean?
That's
but
life
like,
changing. Yeah,
that's life changing. I'm just like that. Like literally warms my heart. Like I have no words to like describe that feeling. Where it's like. Again, because it's like, again, it's not, we always say it's more than just running. And it truly is more than just running because it's like, we're helping build confidence, I feel like. We're like helping like people like believe in themselves, you know what I mean? And like giving that space for support and for you to like be yourself and like, just like, I don't know, like it's just, it's amazing. I love it.
No, absolutely. And I'm not surprised whatsoever to hear that people have been impacted in ways beyond just running. And it relates to your mission, right? Which is creating safe, accessible spaces for women. Beyond what you're doing there, how else do you envision yourself or actually see yourself changing to make that a reality?
Ooh, that's a good question. Ooh, that's a. I don't know.
What do you envision a world to look like when you have accomplished that mission?
A world to look like. Honestly, I feel like the way that I want to answer that question is like simply like our interact, like when you said like our interaction, like when you told me that you needed to like go take, you just needed to like get away, whatever. I just in like your, I guess the way that I responded was like you said that it was like yeah, we don't know each other like that, but like it felt like like I just feel like I just want women to like have each other's backs. Like I just envision a world where it's like we're just like fighting the fight together. Like it doesn't have to be like this grand thing, but just like being like holding space for each other. Like it doesn't have to be like so serious. Like
absolutely,
I don't know. Like to me, that's just like it could really be that simple. Just like holding space for each other.
Absolutely. I mean, I couldn't agree more, and that's something that I always try to lead by example in myself, but it is difficult when it doesn't feel like it's reciprocated and you keep trying, and that's I think why it meant so much to me that like what you did for me is what I try to do to others. But you're right that we're not there yet, and some people are, and like you and I have obviously like kindred spirits in that way, and we found each other now. But I look forward to getting to a place where we recognize how much stronger we are together. And I say it all the time, but a rising tide lifts all boats, like that.
I love
approach.
that.
Yeah, it's something that I would love to see happen as well. And thank you for sharing that, because I think that is something that we can all work on in our own way. And even if it is taking a second before we respond to things to think about, okay, what would I want to be told in that moment? Or like, just pausing to think about how we could really be supportive in that moment, especially if someone's been vulnerable and shared something difficult. So thank you for that, because I think we need more people like you in this world doing stuff like that. And it is a critical piece of moving forward. On that note, I think that works in quite nicely to your role at Puma. You started working there in 2022. How does that intersect with your mission, what you want to do here? And just give us your experience working with Puma and knowing that you're not just changing things. I mean, not that what you were doing before was not important, but this is like changing things from the inside out with a brand, with a platform that has massive potential to really make change in our space. So, what do you want to share there?
Oh, I'm like, do I even want to share anything? So, I mean, I feel like I'm so new. Like, it's been 8 months, and I feel like I'm just like getting the grasp, slowly a little bit getting the grasp of things. I don't know. And maybe I need to do a better job at this, but I feel like my role at Puma is my role at Puma, right? Mm-hmm. I'm trying to get experience. Like, the team that I work with is so strong, and like I love my team. And I think we've been doing a good job at like looking at things, like especially with like who we work with. Like, one thing I love about working with Puma right now, it's like we're not like the typical, like when we're like working with people, it's not about like it's not only about like, oh, how many followers do they have, or like like we're like really looking at like what is this person doing in the community, like what is like like I don't know, like I just feel very lucky to be on the team that I'm in, where it's like we care more than just like the amount of followers that you have, or like what type of like reach you have on social media or something. Like we're really looking at like we do a lot of give backs. We're really looking at like people like in the community, especially like in the running and like training space, of like people like who have like substance, you know what I mean? And I'm just like happy right now to be part of that. But girl, it's been a journey, and like I'm just here to learn.
I mean, that's what we need, though. That's, though, that says a lot in itself, because that desire to learn, that curiosity, is really what makes change happen. It's not going in and being Ms. Know-it-all and being like, well, I know what we need to do. Like, the fact that you are going into this with growth and with learning, and you're getting the experience, so that when you can find another role, or maybe within this role where you have the opportunity to make change, you've taken those lessons in. So I love hearing that, and that takes some vulnerability in itself to be there to listen. So I think that's great, and I think that's what's needed. And the final piece of you that I want to talk about is, your activism. You very much speak up for what you believe in. You have organized a ride for Breonna Taylor, a ride for Black Lives. You do speak up and speak out about things that are important to you, which is not easy to do. And is there anything you would like to share with the running community if they do have something that they are passionate about, but have always felt, I don't know if I want to speak, I know I'm going to get people attacking me, and I'm going to get, blowback from this. Anything you'd like to say there?
One thing I like to say is like how I operate anyways, like do it scared. Do it scared. Again, I hate public speaking. I hate it. I seriously hate it. Like, I will speak and my hands will be shaking. Like, just do it. Even if your voice cracks, even if your hands are shaking, even if you are scared shitless, just do it. Mm-hmm. Just do it. And I know it's like easier said than done, but like that's just how you got to do it. Like, because if not, you're gonna just spend your whole life like mute. Like, think of right. So it's just like, do it scared. That's how I do it every day. I do this shit scared all the time.
Yes. Do you think it gets easier though for you, the public speaking? Like, do you, like, okay, maybe before going on a podcast was absolutely terrifying, and now it's like mildly scary. Like, do you find it gets easier?
A little bit. Teeny bit.
Teeny bit. We'll take it.
A teeny bit, yes. It gets. I am very proud of like how far I've come in like just public speaking, and like again like speaking up and stuff. But again, like it's practice. You just kind of gotta do it. And preparation, practice and preparation. I feel
That's
like
true. That does make a big difference. Although when someone like me springs on you the question at the last minute, you can obviously handle on the spot too without the preparation. Is there anything else you'd like to tell people listening in terms of, running, their relationship with running, just the industry in general? This is your opportunity to share anything that feels important to you that we haven't covered yet.
I would just say like, let's continue to show up and like support each other. I think that's very important. Let's continue to collaborate. Like Trailblazers, like that's one of our pillars is collaboration. Like, it's not about competition. It's just about like really creating these spaces. Like the more authentic, safe spaces that like show up, the better to me. Like it has nothing to do with competition. Like, again, if we're talking about accessibility, if we're talking about like creating these spaces, especially for people of color, like someone needs to create them, right? So it's like, just let's, I don't know, like get out of our own way and just like, let's do the damn thing.
I agree. And I love that your mindset is collaboration, because mine is too. And it's just a more positive and loving way to live over seeing everyone as, how can I get above that person or ahead of that person, or I should have done that. And that's not to say, and I don't know about you, but that's not to say that I don't see people doing things and I think, oh, I would have wanted to do that.
Right. I mean, we're human beings. Go on. Yes. Like, of course, yes.
But when you stop yourself, usually for me, when I stop myself and say, did I really try to do that? Like, did I really put myself in a position to have that opportunity? And the answer is almost always no.
Right.
And that person did. So good for them.
Right.
Okay. Well, Liz, I want to thank you so much for joining me today. Where can people go find you to follow along in the future?
You guys could just follow Trailblazers. You don't need to follow me. Yes.
Yeah.
Trailblazers.
Well, you're pretty cool to follow as well. I'll put both links in the show notes.
Thank you.
Is it Instagram you probably say is the best place to go?
Yeah, Instagram, and then like the link in our bio will give you a host of links that you can follow to like stay up to date. Okay,
and then if someone lives in Boston, there's a lot more opportunities for them as well.
Yep, way more. I think the easiest way is just join our newsletter. So like hit up our website, sign up for our newsletter. Our newsletter is pretty dope, I will have to say. We send one out every month. Abeo, who is one of the co-founders as well, she does the newsletters, and she's such a creative. And like, oh, I love that. It's a fun newsletter. It really is.
Okay, cool. Maybe I'll go sign myself up, even though I don't live in Boston.
No, seriously, you should. It's such a good read, honestly.
Okay, cool. Good to know. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I hope I will see you again in Boston in a few months. But I appreciate you, sharing with us and helping us to grow and learn. And just thanks for joining me today.
No, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
The Running for Real podcast and everything we do here at Running for Real would not be possible if it wasn't for the Running for Real team. While I am the person who you hear from most often and maybe the face of the brand, the rest of our team are such critical pieces of what we do. And without them, I think I'd just be running around in circles with ideas. So I want to take a moment to thank our team. To Jeremy Nessel, who's been with me since the very beginning. Kat McKay, Sally Pontarelli, Kelsey Wang, Sandy Gutierrez, Louise Murphy, Andrew Basola, Alexandria Will, and Maria Vargas. Thank you to each and every one of you for all that you give to Running for Real and our community. I appreciate you, and I'm so thankful for having you as a part of the team. Thank you so much to Liz for sharing her story with us and for just her openness and vulnerability about the struggles, because I know many of us relate to the things she talked about there, and they are things that just aren't discussed very often, even though they should be. I want to remind you to go find Liz and follow along with her wherever you want to keep in touch with her. You can go find links at runningforreal.com/episode 341. You can also find links to our sponsors in the show notes. You can go check out Tracksmith and if you are a new customer, get that as $15 off your order of $75 or more. You can also you can also give a donation to charity if you prefer, which I will tell you more about that. We are working with Track Girls this month. You can also get a 12% discount at Orlo, and I'll put a link in the show notes for you just to make it as easy as possible for you to go get that 12% discount to go get those omega-3s. And also to Athletic Greens, you can get a 1-year free supply of vitamin D3 plus K2 plus 5 free travel packs by going to athleticgreens.com/Tina. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'll see you on Monday for a Together Run and next Friday for another regular episode.